Okay, so here's the second day of solving by substitution. Remember, that means we're going to substitute one thing in for a variable. Okay, so yesterday we didn't actually have to do this first step here, solving one for one of the variables. Okay, they were already solved for y equals or x equals something, right? So today we're going to add in, we actually have to do this step. You should already have these steps written in your notes. If you didn't write them down yesterday, write them down now. So you'll notice that we have two equations, which makes it a system, right? But neither one of them is already solved for y or x. A lot of the time, one of the equations is going to be easier to solve for one of the variables. What I mean by this is if you look at the second equation here, y doesn't have a number with it. Okay, so we could get y by itself real easily by just adding that 6x to both sides. And then we have that y equals, oops, I forgot the x, 6x plus 4. Okay, we could definitely, you can always solve this one for x or y, but if you do, you're going to end up having to divide by that 3, and a lot of times that means you're going to end up with fractions, and I know how much we hate fractions. So if you can just take the time to look at the two equations and see which one might be easier to solve, because like in this case the y is by itself. Okay, we'll do some examples, we'll keep talking about that, don't worry. So we solved that for y. So now we know that y equals this. So we can put that in for y in the other equation. Be very careful that you're always substituting it into the other equation that you haven't actually done anything with yet. So that means we've got negative 7x plus 3 times 6x plus 4. Remember, we put that in there in parentheses instead of the y, equals negative 10. So we're substituting what y equals in for y. So you have no more y in your new equation. Instead, you have the 6x plus 4 in parentheses. Always put what you substitute in parentheses. And then we solve. First, we need to distribute negative 7x plus 18x plus 12 equals negative 10. We have something we need to combine. We have two x terms on the same side, so let's combine that. Negative 7x plus 18x gives us 11x plus 12 equals negative 10. Subtract the 12. 11x equals negative 22. Divide by 11. X equals negative 2. But remember, we're not done yet. We are so close to being done, but we're not there. We know what x equals, so we're halfway there, and we've done the hard part. Now we need to take that x, negative 2, and put it back in to any one of these equations. Okay? It's going to be the easiest if you put it into the equation that you solved to get y by itself. So we do y equals 6 times negative 2 plus 4. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12, plus 4 would be negative 8. So our answer is the point negative 2, negative 8. But notice all of that work needs to be there, which is why I'm not making you do 27 of them. Okay? If you wanted to check your work, you could try putting that negative 2 into, say, this one or this one instead or in addition to, and see if you still get that negative 8. You should, every time. So here in this equation, in these two equations, we need to look at them. So here the x has something, the 10 has something, so we have to divide, right? Plus there's that 0. I don't know, that's just weird. And then in this one, the second one here, x is all by itself. There's no number there to have to divide by, okay? So that means in order to get that x by itself, all we have to do is add that 5y, okay? And now x is by itself. It's like solving for y, but you're solving for x, okay? So we have 5y minus 6. Now, if you really want to always solve for y, you can do that, okay? Be careful, because if you solve this equation for y, you're going to end up with a fraction, because you're going to have to divide the negative 6 by the negative 5. So you're going to end up with a fraction, okay? If you solve this guy for x, let's just do that real quick. Okay, so if you're going to solve this guy for y, that's fine. So you've got 2x plus 10y equals 0. So subtract the 2x. You've got 10y equals negative 2x, because 0 minus 2x is just negative 2x. Divide by 10. Look, you end up with a fraction, right? Negative 1/5 x. I'm guessing, because I've been doing this for a while, you don't want to have to deal with fractions. Okay? So that's why it's going to be the easiest if you figure out which one, if you take the time to look at your two equations and figure out which one has a variable without something to divide. If you don't have to divide, you're not going to end up with a fraction. Okay? So that's why this is easier, even though it's solved for x, which is weird to us, but it's okay. So let me show you what you're going to do. You're still going to take what x equals and you're going to put it in to the other equation for x. Be careful, if you figured out x equals, then you need to put it in for x. So you've got 2 times 5y minus 6 plus 10y equals 0. Now we do the same thing. We're just solving for y instead of for x. So we distribute. So we've got 10y minus 12 plus 10y equals 0. We have like terms that we need to combine. They just happen to not be next to each other. So 10y plus 10y is 20y. Minus 12 still equals 0. Add the 12. I'm moving over here, so 20y equals 12. Divide by 20. Now we're going to have a fraction, but that's okay. Well, let's see, 4 goes both in both of those, so that would be 3/5. Okay, so now we know y. Now we know what y equals. Okay, so now we're going to need to put it into one of the equations. Doesn't matter which one. Even as a fraction, it's easiest to put it into that one that you solved for. So x equals 5 times 3/5 minus 6. 5 times 3/5, your 5's cancel, you get 3. So 3 minus 6 is negative 3. So be careful. When you write your answer, x is always first. Not the one you found first, x is first. So negative 3 3/5 is your answer. Okay? I have one more example for you. So you might be looking at this and saying, well, Miss Emig, I don't know, because that guy's by itself, that guy's by himself, that guy's by himself. Okay? Well, I'm here to tell you this one isn't really by itself, right? Because it's got that negative. So if I was doing these, I would say that's not by himself. But this is by itself and this is by itself. So I'm guessing that it would be easier for you to solve for y because that's what we're used to. It's more natural to us because we've been doing it, which is why I'm going to solve for x here just so that you have another example of that. Okay, so let's subtract the y, and that gives us x equals negative y minus 4. Also, it gives me several other things that I want to point out to you. So we know what x equals, so we need to put it into the other equation. Okay. Remember, that's a negative 1 in front of that x times what we just came up with, negative y minus 4 plus 6y equals negative 3. Now we need to distribute that negative 1. So negative 1 times negative y is y. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. Okay. We need to combine our y's. So that gives us 7y plus 4 equals negative 3. Subtract the 4. 7y equals negative 7. Divide by 7. Y equals negative 1. Okay, so that's half of our answer. Now we need to go put that negative 1 in here, or here, or here. Okay, I'm going to put it in here just because I want to show you. I'm going to put it in this one because I want to show you something. So x equals negative 1 minus 4. Remember that negative really makes it plus a positive. So 1, positive 1, minus 4, x equals negative 3. And again, remember, x always goes first. It's not the one that you found first, it's whichever one is x that goes first in your point. So that's your answer. Please, please, please ask questions in Zoom chat.